Korea is often described as a closed, dark nation, and not just in metaphor. When night falls in Pyongyang, the city turns black, streetlights are few, homes sit in silence, power cuts are common. But this is physical darkness, and it's matched by a deeper spiritual heaviness that hangs in the air. Yes, welcome again to DocWales Diaries. It's a joy to have you back again. Well, today's journey takes us to a land where time seems frozen, where smiles are monitored and even whispers carry weight. This is North Korea, a place cloaked in silence, yet echoing with quiet resistance, where the streets are dim, but the human spirit flickers with stubborn hope. It's a story of contradictions, of sacred callings in the face of suppression, of bronze idols and broken windows, of mothers who weep with joy and doctors who almost walked away. In this episode, we walk where the gospel must tiptoe. We meet strangers who become brothers, and we watch as faith, once shaken, find its footing again. It's about prayers whispered in darkness, medicine smuggled with purpose, and divine appointments arranged in silence. So come with us, past the guarded checkpoints, overheated aircraft cabins, and overheard prayers, and into a land that tried to crush the light, but couldn't keep it from shining. This is more than a mission. It's a reminder that when God sends you, even the most forbidden ground becomes holy. Stepping out in faith is never easy. It takes courage to follow the teachings of Jesus into unknown places. There is joy, deep, fulfilling joy, in serving others. But there is also struggle, real struggle, especially when the place you're called to serve is North Korea. North Korea is often described as a closed, dark nation, and not just in metaphor. When night falls in Pyongyang, the city turns black, streetlights are few, homes sit in silence, power cuts are common. But this is physical darkness, and it's matched by a deeper spiritual heaviness that hangs in the air. I remember what I saw: elderly women hunched under heavy loads, shuffling through the streets, others kneeling by the roadside, cutting grass with scissors. Tramcars from another age, crowded, silent with tired workers, staring blankly out of the windows. War posters covering buildings, images of the great leader, smiling benevolently, almost in parody of Jesus welcoming the children. And then there were the massive bronze statues on Mansudae Hill, revered not as art, but as idols. Citizens are required to bow, not to a deity, but to human rulers. The city was filled with contradictions. Beautiful public buildings, but entirely empty. Children's playgrounds, but no children. Lavish hotels like the Yangdak-to, towering and silent. A grand underground metro system, used mostly for show. And at every intersection, young women in crisp uniforms directing traffic, where there are hardly any cars, blowing whistles if you dared cross the street before they signalled. At first it was overwhelming, but that sense quickly gave way to something else, something deeper, a profound respect for the people themselves. Despite their limitations, the North Koreans we met greeted us with grace, with gratitude and quiet strength. My roommate during this mission was a gifted plastic surgeon from Los Angeles. He was a specialist in repairing cleft palates and other facial deformities, a skill highly sought after and lucrative in Hollywood. But he gave his time and talent freely to serve children in need around the world. Yet, after just 2 days in Pyongyang, he was broken. He hated it there. He turned to me in the middle of the night and asked if we could pray. It was a sacred moment. We opened the scripture together and we read Philippians chapter 4, verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I reassured him that these feelings were not uncommon in this strange land. But I also reminded him tomorrow he would meet the children and then he'd understand why he was here. The next day, his gifted hands changed the lives of 3 babies. Their mothers wept, and despite the constant surveillance, even embraced him. The barriers fell. Grace broke through. That moment changed everything for him. The days that followed were filled with blessings, healing and laughter. It was a joy to share a room and a calling with him. A few weeks before the trip, I received a call out of the blue. Dr. Price, said Monique, a former neighbor from Massachusetts, now living in California. I heard you're going to North Korea. Would you like to take some antibiotics with you? She connected me with a local NGO. Days later, a large shipment arrived, including 3rd-generation cephalosporins, powerful antibiotics used to treat deadly infections like sepsis. I brought them with me, unsure who would receive them, but God already knew. We were able to deliver them to a North Korean doctor, not known to us. It was reported that his father had been executed for his role in the underground church. This physician, now banned from practicing in Pyongyang, was considered contaminated by his Christian faith. But with those antibiotics, he was able to treat patients in secret and survive for an entire year. One divine provision became a lifeline for many. While in Pyongyang, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure, Dr. James Kim, the founder of PUST, Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. We were in the same restaurant. We didn't speak. Too dangerous with minders watching. But we exchanged a quiet nod of recognition. Later, as we left North Korea, our flight to Beijing was diverted due to a storm. We sat in a hot, airless plane in Shenyang for 3 hours. A man collapsed, likely from dehydration. Cabin crew panicked. Dr. Kim and I, we sprang into action. We lifted the man to the evacuation ladder, but North Korean agents intervened, suspecting a defection attempt. Eventually, we persuaded them to allow a medical team to intervene. The man thankfully survived. Later, under heavy guard, we shared a conversation. I told Dr. Kim of our mission, of my desire to help build a medical school at PUST, and my work to recruit support. He listened with quiet encouragement. I told him how, on a drive to the Emperor's tombs, south of the city, I'd recognized the exact location of PUST, thanks to Google Earth and a landmark power station chimney near the Unification Arch. What I didn't know was that this was also the site of Robert Jermaine Thomas Church, destroyed long ago. North Koreans have not forgotten Thomas. I even found and bought a postage stamp depicting the destruction of the General Sherman, the ship that Thomas came on. I sent that stamp and an embroidered pictures to Stephen Rees, Thomas's great-nephew, who lives in Wales. In 2007, phones were rare in North Korea. News didn't spread by screen or print, but by whisper. And it was by whispers that one young woman learned that we were there. She walked for days, all the way from the Chinese border to the gates of the hospital where we were. She had waited 2 days to deliver a note to our team. I was born deaf, she wrote, and I no longer want to live unless I have a chance to hear. She begged for help. The team met her. We couldn't operate right away, but we made her a promise. On our next visit, she would be the first to receive a cochlear implant. Let your light shine before others, Jesus said in Matthew 5, verse 16. that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. In a land of whispers, the gospel still moves. Word of healing travels fast, and grace travels even faster. That visit to Pyongyang changed me. It stirred something deep within, a renewed longing to be part of what God is quietly doing in the hidden corners of the world, where the light flickers, and in the shadows, hope refuses to die. Just when I thought the story had reached its end, God opened another door. Because with Him, there is always another chapter, another calling, another miracle waiting to unfold. As it is written, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." Isaiah 43 verse 19. Thank you again for tuning in to these programs. I'm looking forward to being with you soon. DocWales.